guys, it's Trina and today is Top 5 Wednesday, which is a weekly topic group that was created by Ginger Reads Lady, and I will put a link down below to the group and to her channel. And this week's topic is Top 5 Favorite Graphic Novels. On my list, I will be including graphic novels, comics, and one really heavily illustrated novel. But here is my list, and at number 5 is Saga, which was written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Fiona Staples. This is a comic series that I believe has 5 volumes out right now, and I've read the first 4 volumes. And I know a lot of people love this series and they really rave about it, but it's only number 5 on my list because I just don't like it as much as most people do. I would highly recommend it to you if you really enjoy sci-fi and fantasy. It is set in space. There's like this galactic war that's happening, all these different types of aliens and humanoid creatures and robotic creatures. There's a lot of action in it, there's a lot of violence, there's also some nudity and sexual content. So the reason that I don't like this series as much as everybody else is because I felt like the first 2 volumes were kind of convoluted. There is a lot happening here, a lot of characters, a lot of different storylines, and I feel like the story is almost too big for the graphic novel format. The other thing I really didn't appreciate about this series is the way that it incorporates sexual content. Only a very small fraction of it I feel like should have been there or needed to be there or didn't distract from the story that was happening, but there are a lot of scenes. It seemed very gratuitous because it was thrown in for shock value and it didn't really need to be there. Some of the scenes are pretty actually disgusting, so I don't like that stuff at all. That's just my personal taste, so I didn't get invested in the series right up front. Volume 3 is where I found myself getting really invested in the characters. The characters and watching all the different storylines actually converge is really interesting, so I do recommend the series. At number 4 is Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky, and I know what you're thinking. I just got done saying I didn't like the sexual content in Saga, and yet this is a graphic novel based around sexual content, yes, but it handles it so much differently. It handled it in a way that I didn't find offensive. I found that it added to the story. This story is about 2 characters who can freeze time when they have sex, so the story is based around sexual events. But first of all, a lot of the sex scenes are covered. Secondly, the sexual content that is shown didn't feel gratuitous. It is a portrayal of a realistic, healthy, consensual relationship. It was not done for shock value. It just was there and was part of the story. What I really love about this series is that it just portrays a really realistic, raw relationship. These characters are the most deeply developed characters that I've read about in a comic series. It spends a lot of time getting to know them. I really love that the main female character, she has body confidence issues, and yet she is still portrayed as this incredibly fierce, strong, and sexy and feminist female character. And the male lead actually has ADHD. He has a lot of confidence issues too. He has some immaturity to him at times. It was really refreshing to see a character that has some kind of disorder and the way that he treats it and the way that it affects his relationships. And yet again, he is still portrayed as a handsome, sought-after male character. And then there's a lot of humor in this comic series as well. There is a lot of sex humor because it is a sex comedy, but they make a lot of social commentary about dating today, like talking about Facebook and Tinder, and it's going to be made into a TV show. That sounds really interesting, but when I got into it, I was just so surprised at how much I was really enjoying just the down-to-earth human elements of it, so I'm definitely looking forward to continuing this series. There are currently 2 volumes out of this, and it is an ongoing series, but if you don't enjoy sexually graphic content, images, I definitely wouldn't recommend it for you. I think it's an 18-up kind of book, so just be aware of what you can and cannot read or like to read, so just keep that in mind. At number 3 is Blankets by Craig Thompson. This is an autobiographical graphic novel that he wrote and drew entirely himself. And it's the story of his teenage years and his first love. I would highly recommend this graphic novel to anyone who loves contemporary romance. Personally, I think that this is a great start if you haven't read a lot of graphic novels yet. I think that because it reads so much like a YA contemporary novel, that you're gonna have a more full story, something that you're more used to, much more of a developed story than most really short comics and graphic novels, and the panels aren't really difficult to keep track of, like what order they go in or what's happening. It's not very action-packed, so you don't get confused easily. I think it's a great place to start. There are several YA contemporary authors who have cited Blankets as one of their greatest influences for like inspiration of what they're writing, because it's such a great portrayal of first love and just having that raw feeling since it is like a real story. Specifically, I've heard Stephanie Perkins mention it as a big inspiration behind I Land the Happily Ever After. Number number 2 on my list is the Walking Dead comic series by Robert Kirkman. There are over 20 volumes of this series out right now, and I've read through 14. If you love the TV show, or if you just love zombies, definitely check out the Walking Dead comics. It's such an in-depth story about almost like every possibility that could happen in a zombie apocalypse, and you can definitely read the comics while you're watching the show. They don't spoil each other. You might know like where the group is heading, but the TV show has done a great job of really mixing things up. So things that happen to the characters in the comics happen to different characters in the TV show. If you like the TV show, definitely check these out. And my number 1 pick is actually the illustrated novel. It is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. It's a middle grade story that has text on the pages just like any novel, but almost every page has some kind of illustration that does interact and connect with the text that is on that page. So it's very heavily illustrated. That's why I wanted to include it on this list. This is one of my all-time favorite books. It's a highly emotional read. A lot of people pick it up expecting a creepy story. Some of the illustrations can be creepy because you're looking at a monster and he's not exactly a pretty monster, but the story overall is just so touching. I really wish that I had read it earlier, and I wish I could say more about it, but unfortunately I think that the people that I really want to recommend it to, if I tell you why, I think that might be a spoiler for the story. But I love the illustrations in this book, and the story together, they really just evoke this really strong emotion. So if you haven't checked this one out, I would highly recommend it. So those are my favorite graphic novels slash comics slash illustrated novels. Definitely let me know if you've read any of these, or let me know what your favorite graphic novel is down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the comments. Bye!